Now we're going to look at how I actually would do this process. I keep my tools out very close to where I'm working. I usually have a bunch of stuff around because I don't know what I'm going to want to grab and how fast. It's always necessary to make sure that the surface you're going to work on has got no lint on it. Because if lint gets under this image, number one, it can show, and number two, what it could do is if you try to lift it off because you see it, then it'll make a mark. This is a piece of parchment paper. If this surface, this cotton canvas, had been crunkled up, then I would have ironed it with something over it, and it would be the same thing that I would do when I'm finished with it, in case when I dry it, if it dries up a little crinkly, I flip it over and put this on the back of it and press it out. So it's perfect. Now, one of the things that I like to do is I like to take the edges off a bit and make them a little jagged. Part of this happens if you know, the transfer film has a little bit of the actual, whatever the ink is going to clean to, the transfer solution. So sometimes when you're trying to lift it off, those pieces can get stuck and will start tearing your transfer as it goes out. So I like to remove what is around the edge on this transfer. Now, I wouldn't do it on the same place that I'm going to do the transfer, but today, since this is a demo, I'm just going to do it there. I showed you this little thing of water. What I do is I take this washcloth and see, I carefully either hold it with my fingertip or I take another towel that is dry and I hold this so I don't make any marks in the print. And then I go along the edge and I blot out some of the ink. Now you can also do this in your file. You can take an eraser tool and you can erase around the edge. I have done that. I don't always do it. I don't know why. But in the same vein, it would be helpful then to go across the edge because you're still going to have that bit of solution on here. I'm just going to turn this a little bit. Thing is, you want to be a little bit careful of the water because if you get it onto the print anywhere, the print's going to run or disappear. So I would do this, except like when I'm in really large ones, I do like to take the eraser tool and erase them out. I got a little bit too much water there. So now once this is clean, two things. I wipe up where it was, and you got to dry it out because you don't want that water up there. But the other thing, if you don't want to see marks, and I'll show you in later videos what that looks like, I just run it across here, trying not to ruin the little jaggedy edge I got, but trying to take the ink off so it doesn't look like dirty spots on your print when it's finished. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And I'm not going to get too crazy here. Okay. Now I have my surface and I have my image. And I think it fits better that way. So this is canvas, and as you noticed, I brought that thing over and then I got a little bit of stuff on the top of my thing. This is canvas, and you'll see in a later video. I usually tape the canvas on the top. There's other surfaces I tape, but most of the ones here I won't. But if the canvas, you think it's going to move around on you, then you do want to tape it. Now, I'm going to bring this down just a bit. I'm going to take my solution, which, as I said in the other video, I do keep my brush in here. Then I close this up, obviously. And sometimes I put a piece of plastic over this because it gets sticky and then you can't get the top off. Bad, bad, bad. And then I'm just going to saturate this. Really saturate it. And then in this example, it's not going to be what I would usually do because I don't usually use every tool on, you know, every surface that I'm working on. I just use what I like. And the canvas is really a nice fabric because it really lets the image get into the fibers. It's really pretty, it's a good where to start actually because it is pretty forgiving. What I like to do is carefully, and this is not putting much pressure on here, is smooth it out with my fingers. If you all want to wear rubber gloves, go ahead and do that. I can't work with them. They're very weird. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the time, and I'm going to wait for 3.5 to 4 minutes. But in the waiting, I'm going to press this down to the surface. Usually what I do first is I take something soft, like a brayer that would be like this, or this, which is just a kind of stiff foam brush. And I'm looking to push the fibers in, but I'm not, the image into the fibers, but I'm not trying to disturb the ink. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, what I mean by that. Canvas is pretty forgiving, so you really don't have much of a problem there. I like to spend a little bit of time making sure this is flat into the surface, and I will not maybe use all these tools each time, but I'm showing you how I do it. Now, I don't like to go across and really heavy down all the way, because if my ink is going to move, that's moving a lot of ink. So I like to do it in little pieces so that you get the entire image, but you don't mess up with the ink. This would be pretty hard to mess the ink up now because it's pretty well stuck in there. Okay. This is my favorite tool. I usually, on almost anything I do, I use this. But it can also destroy your print. So you have to learn how to put the right amount of pressure to make sure this is all in. So I think I've showed you all my tools. No, I haven't. I also will use this, where I will press the image around. And I would do some of that, part of that. Use them all, don't use them all, use one. I usually always use this one, this wedge, because like I said, it's my favorite tool. And then I'll watch the clock, and I'll let this sit for another couple minutes until I think the ink is already dissolved off the transfer film, and then I'll take the film off. So when I get to this part where I'm going to take the film off, I carefully lift the edge of it, and I look to make sure that no ink is coming off onto the transfer film to make spots in it or to start a pull, because if some ink comes up, it might just pull across the whole entire image. I like to do it where I can push my fingers down evenly across the top. So I'm pushing down as I'm rolling it off. And there you have the image, and you can see a little teeny piece came off from down there, but it's okay because it was right on the edge and you really can't tell.